All right, we are live again on Tuesday. It's just about 5 o'clock. It might be a minute before, so we will give people a few minutes to show up. Jim, Carol, how's it going? It's good to have you guys here as always. Last week we did a shop tour. This week we are going to turn a pen. We will be turning between centers. So I have my turn between center bushings on my pen blank here. We'll talk about the dentist that we turned a couple weeks ago now, and we'll go from there. Angie, what's up? How's it going? If you guys can just let me know that you can hear me, that my mic is on, I would appreciate that. We'll get started here. We'll get started here in a few minutes. Good. All right. Lisa says I'm still doing all staff in-service days, so it's going to watch on mute. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you turn a pen. Awesome. Yeah, I've been in services quite a bit doing things as well. So yeah, I get that. We finally, we're going to get rolling pretty soon here. Okay, Ray says, hello, y'all. Sounds fine on my end. Awesome, thank you. You're good. Sound is good. Awesome. All right, so we are going to take a quick look. This says last week's project, but really it was 2 weeks ago. Here is the pen that I turned. This was the dentist that we turned. This was the Solar Flare pen blank. It was a Classic Castings Polyester Resin blank from the Classic Nib. And this week we also have a Classic Castings pen blank from the Classic Nib as well. It's also polyester resin. This pen, it unscrews, it's threaded there. The cap comes off. Now it's not postable, which isn't a huge deal, but it does write really nicely. I've used this at work quite a bit. So this was last week's, or I should say 2 weeks ago. The project we did 2 weeks ago, because last week we didn't turn. What we did was we did a shop tour. So this week we are going to turn another Classic Castings. This is a Classic Nib Swamp Waters PR pen blank, classicnib.com. The blank is available on their website, and I do have that linked in the description. I also want to thank my top patron, Angie. So thank you so much. I appreciate the support, and we'll get started here pretty quick. I'm going to go ahead and put my smock on, and we will get started. Okay. John says, nice looking pen. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was pretty happy with the way it turned out, pun intended. So we will go ahead and get started here as soon as I can put my T-Shadow smock on. We'll be turning at about more or less somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 RPMs. And we will be turning between centers. This is an all polyester resin blank, so we won't be doing a CA finish tonight, but we will be polishing. We'll be polishing. So there's a look at the blank one more time. It's this green and black combination that in my opinion, looks pretty cool. Again, there's the label. It's from Classic Nib, Swamp Waters PR. That's polyester resin. And then we have classicnib.com. The link to this exact blank is in the description. So if you're interested in checking that out, that is available in the description. We are going to be putting this on an executive pen kit tonight, and that came from Turner's Warehouse, which is also linked in the description if you guys are interested. So I'm going to go ahead and move you guys over just a touch so I have room to turn. And there we go. We're almost there. All right. All right, so we're gonna put this between centers and we'll be ready to roll. The nice thing with the executive pen kit is that both bushings are the same size on either end, so it doesn't really matter which end is towards the headstock or which end is towards the tailstock. Tonight we will be turning with the T-Shadow negative rake scraper. Let's make sure that we're gonna be okay here. So here's our T-Shadow negative rake scraper, tshadow.com. Let's make sure we have our lathe adjusted so we can have the correct speed. Got our face shield so we stay safe, and we'll be ready to start turning this pen. So here we go. We'll let the lathe get up to speed. We're running right around 3,700 right now, so it's not too bad. All right. I know I've mentioned this on live streams before, but this stuff polishes really nice, but it smells to turn, it smells to drill, but the end result is definitely worth it. As much as I love turning my Alumilite blanks, and they are probably my favorite, nothing polishes like a polyester resin blank, in my opinion. might be getting time soon to rotate this cutter. I can definitely tell that I've got some pretty heavy tool marks in here, but we're still pretty proud of the bushing, so we've got a ways to go. So, all right, let's keep going. Let's keep turning. Again, we're turning at about 3,700 RPMs. I'll raise this tool rest just a skosh. Let's see where that puts us here. Let's try that. I just like to stop frequently to check to see how the progress is going. We're getting there. We are getting there slowly but surely. Carol, I am using a tool rest. Yeah, the tool rest is there. It just, the angle that is, that the camera's at, it does make it hard, but the tool rest is right here, and I just have it up close, and then the angle of the camera doesn't help that. So I'm not doing some sort of wizard magic that I'm that good. I'm definitely relying on a tool rest. We're getting closer to the bushings, so this is where I really need to exercise some self-control and not be so heavy-handed because we don't want this blank to blow up on us. That would not be good. Wouldn't be the end of the world, but it wouldn't be ideal. All right, let's take a look. Tell you what, that negative rake scraper from T-Shadow really does a heck of a job. This blank is smooth. I've got some pretty decent tool marks though because I was kind of heavy-handed in spots. So I think I'm going to take a couple more passes. We will switch over to the sandpaper to finish off getting to the bushings, and then we'll be ready to sand and micro mesh and polish. We will call it good there. Time to work through some dry sanding. I'm going to flip the lathe in reverse, and then I'm going to turn this down quite a bit. All right. So now I'm just taking my time to get down to the bushings. Sanding down to the bushings for me does two things. It allows me to get down to the bushings, but it also allows me to take out my tool marks. I know I could do that when I sand through the grits with my Abranet, with my dry sanding regiment, but for me, I would rather spend the time and sand down to the blanks and have a good finished product than a pen that blew apart because I needed to take it all the way down to the bushings. That's just my personal opinion. It's basically come down to the fact that I'm a little shy when turning, just because I have had the experience of blanks blowing apart in the past, and it can be pretty frustrating, especially if it's a blank that you're really attached to. And when I sand, I make sure that I keep moving. I don't stay in one spot. Heat does build up, but I make sure to keep moving in order to not allow too much heat to build up in one spot. I will work on the blank I will work on certain areas, but even when I work on certain areas, I still keep the blank, or I still keep the blank cooler by moving the sandpaper. There are turners who are a lot better than I am, and they can take a blank all the way down to the bushings and then just sand. But like I said previously, you know, I get a little shy because I've blown up some blanks that I was it was a bummer. We're getting close. One way I check, even with the lathe on, I just place my finger half on the blank and half on the bushing. If I can feel a lip there, I know that if it's not smooth, I know that I still have some work to do. And we are getting close. Ideally, if I wasn't live streaming, I would have a dust collector right here, and that would be collecting, that would be capturing most of this dust. But because this is a live stream, I haven't gotten a remote to turn my dust collector on and off yet. And like I said, since this is a live stream, I'd rather you guys hear me than a dust collector the entire time. Because if I were to turn the dust collector on, I'd have to go across the shop to turn it off, which isn't that far. It's less than 30 feet, but it takes time. All right, we are just about there. And if I notice that a piece of the 120 grit sandpaper here is going dull, there's not as much grit, I just move to another portion of the sandpaper and work through it there. We just have a little bit of work to do here. And we are down to the bushings. Now I'm just going to take these circular scratches that we put in the blank when we were sanding, and I'm just going to turn them horizontal. And I'm going to turn them horizontal by sanding with the lathe off. This was a trick that I picked up from Bob over at RJB Wood Turner. He taught me quite a bit because I'm one of those guys that went to YouTube University, and he was one of the guys that I followed heavily when I first got into pen turning. Let's check the chat. Jim, just one more pass can be deadly. Yeah, that's if you follow Bob at all, that's one of his key phrases. You know, one more pass, and then inevitably that's the pass where the blank, not always, but that's when the blank goes kaboom. Angie says, I did one more pass and got my tool caught somehow. It went flying and scared the heck out of me. Yeah, it can do that. One thing that I've kind of become aware of is I think I need to reflatten this tool rest because I think there are some I mean, I can actually see them. There are some small valleys in there, so I need to do some tool maintenance here at some point in the near future. Now that I have this blank down to the bushings, I'm going to turn this lathe, the speed of the lathe, all the way down to the farthest left belt setting, and I'm going to turn this to somewhere in the 500 to 700-ish range for the actual sanding. Now, I am still in reverse. Now, this is 120 grit, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I already spent the time when I was getting the blank down to the bushings. I don't ever go below 120 anymore when I'm doing a pen blank, because I have found that if I go below 120 grit, that the scratches just get way too deep, and it's almost impossible to get those out with the higher grits. So 120 is where I will typically start on a pen blank, unless it's something that's really gnarly or something. But very rarely do I ever go below 120. When I started pen turning, I would start at like 60 grit or something like that. And I was finding that my finish was it was not good. And when I watched a video, it might have been Bob's and it might have been somebody else's, I honestly don't remember. But once they said 120 is, where they start, so they're able to get the scratches out. Anything below that, the scratches stay. I tried it out, and I was getting better results. So I was pretty happy with that. So I'm stopping in between each grit and just rotating this blank by hand to take out the circular scratches. So instead of the scratches going in a circular pattern, they're going in a horizontal pattern. So we did 120 and 180. Now we're going to do 240. And these go pretty quick. Sometimes I'll run my finger across the blank just to kind of see how it feels, see if I feel anything that seems off, or if I feel anything that needs addressed. Sometimes there might be a high spot, sometimes there might be a flat spot. If there's a spot that just needs some work, I can address it at that point. So lathe is off, we're rotating by hand. This is 240. After we do 240, we'll have 320 and 400, and then we'll be able to move on to micro mesh. Man, this blank is going to be pretty cool. I'll definitely bring you guys in for a better look before I take this off the lathe, and you'll definitely get a good look at it after assembly. That's where it'll really shine. This set of Abranet dry sandpaper has, I think, outlived its life. I've got more that I just haven't broken into. I think this might be its last pen, because it's even though it lasts quite a bit longer than typical sandpaper, it's still time. This stuff lasts longer than typical sandpaper because there's actually a mesh here. You can see my fingers wiggle behind the mesh. That allows the dust to actually fall through so it doesn't clog up the paper. That's why it lasts longer than typical sandpaper. All right, so now that we have our blank sanded through 400, we're going to get set up for micro mesh. Micro mesh is going to be our wet sanding system, and we're going to go 1200 grit. Sorry, not 1200. We're going to go 1500 grit all the way up to 12,000. Now, when I do this, I turn my lathe to the forward position, and I move my belt to the middle position. And I do this at about somewhere between 12 and 1500 RPMs. So I sand lower, but I micro mesh a little faster. So somewhere in the 12 to 1500 RPM range. And it goes, again, 1500 to 12,000 grits. Let me go ahead and check the chat here real quick. Jim says, if the tool rest is stock, the top bar is soft. I replaced mine and it has a harder top bar. No more digs. Good to know. Doug, how's it going? Thank you. Doug from Pole Barn says he's feeling better. That's good. I checked out your latest shop update. You're hopefully you'll be back in the shop before too much longer. Doug says it's like overnight the pain went away, and I was onto the cane. Dude, that's awesome. That is awesome. I am super excited to hear that. All right, micro mesh, 1500 to 12,000. With a resin blank, I will spend the most time on these first couple grits. You're going to want to see the slurry build up on these pads, and that's what's going to tell you that the sanding process is working. If you're not seeing the slurry build up, then it's not sanding. So you can see that moisture there. That is the slurry I'm talking about. So I'm going to flip the pad over just to get a clean section, and I'm going to spend a little more time on this first pad just so we can get as much as we can. And now we'll move to the second pad. I honestly don't remember what the grits are in between. I just know that the first one is 1500 and the last one is 12,000. There are 9 of them, so they go up. From there. These first couple pads is when I'll see the most slurry come off the blank. Once I get to the 4th or 5th pad, it'll start being more of a polish than an actual slurry, which is typical. And again, these are not necessarily my techniques or even my words. I have just watched others turn pens, and I've adapted. I've based my techniques and procedures off of what they have done, what others have done before me. So I'm not claiming to be original. I just enjoy turning, Maybe one day I'll come up with something original, but today is probably not going to be that day. All right. Sometimes I'll also angle the micro mesh pad down just a bit, so then that way the slurry runs down the blank, and that gives the slurry a chance to, or not as much of the slurry ends up on the blank. And I know I could use a blue shop towel and wipe it off, but it's just something that I try to do. And I use firm pressure, but not a ton of pressure, but it's definitely firm pressure because you want the sanding aspect to work. All right. We've got 5 more micro mesh pads. This is where the slurry really starts to not show up as much, so it starts to be more of a polishing of sorts than a sanding. I mean, it does a little bit of both, but it does start to polish as the grits get higher. And like I said at the beginning, this is a polyester resin blank. It was a classic casting from the Classic Nib. This blank is linked in the description from Classic Nib. If you want to get one of these yourself and try it out. Like I said earlier as well, these blanks stink to work with. Like they actually smell. So when you're drilling or turning or anything like that, when you're creating dust or chips or shavings, it does have an odor to it, so I would recommend a mask. But even though it smells, in my opinion, they do polish amazingly, which is why I can't say that I love to turn polyester resin, but I don't mind it because I know that the end product is going to look nice and shiny. And hopefully one day when I'm in a different shop, wherever that might be, hopefully there will be better ventilation options. Right now we're in the basement, so it is somewhat limited, but it's not horrible. Two more micro mesh pads. I've also been told that the micro mesh grit system it's not actually true grits. Like it says that it's 1500 grit, but it's not actually like a sandpaper 1500 grit, or the 12,000 grit last pad isn't necessarily 12,000 grit. It's their system, so it's their numberings. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if they have their own system or not. But the idea is that you go from the roughest pad to the smoothest pad. So there is that. I don't know. Maybe somebody can confirm or deny that in the comments if they know. This is the last micro mesh pad. So after we do this, I'll dry the blank off, and then we'll be ready for some Novus polish. All right. When I use my Novus system, I do that at the same RPMs as micro mesh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some blue shop cloth and I'm just going to tear it into pieces. So then that way I have it ready for when I need it. So I'm going to take this paper towel here, blue shop cloth, and I'm just going to clean this blank. Now, I'm going off onto the bushing, but once I do that, once I take my blue shop cloth and I put it onto the bushing, I don't bring it back onto the blank, because if I bring it back onto the blank, I can bring some of that metal dust, and it could it won't be good for the final product or for the finish of the pen. So we have Novus 3, 2, and 1 here. Novus 3 is going to be our heavy scratch remover. So we are going to open this up. We're going to fold this blue shop cloth over, turn the lathe on. We're going to put just a dot of Novus 3 on, and then we're going to work this in and just let it do its thing. I'm going to work this in for a little bit. I usually stop working it in when it looks like the blank is somewhat hazy and there's no more discernible Novus 3 compound on the blank anymore. Once that gets worked in, and you can kind of see it doesn't look like there's a whole lot on the paper towel either, I fold this over, paper towel, blue shop cloth. You guys know what I'm talking about. I fold over a clean section of blue shop cloth. I apply not heavy but firm pressure on one end of the blank, and I just take off the polish or the Novus 3 in one slow motion with firm pressure across the blank. I'm onto the bushing and I'm off. I don't go back onto the blank because I don't want to risk messing up the finish of my blank. So Novus 2 is a fine scratch remover. This is going to get applied the same exact way as Novus 3. I'm going to put a little dot on my paper towel. Sometimes Novus 3 and Novus 2 get a little clogged in the nozzle, so you have to take either an awl or something small to kind of clear that, but that's no big deal. So again, Novus 2, I'm going to apply it the same way as Novus 3. I'm just going to work this in until it doesn't appear that any of the Novus 2 compound is really on the blank. And if you ask 100 turners how they finish a blank, you're going to get 100 different answers. This is just how I have been doing it. And I'm sure as I watch more videos, as I learn more, I might try something else at some point, but this is what I'm doing right now because it works for me. And just because those 100 turners have 100 different ways, it doesn't make one of them right and 99 of them wrong. It just makes them different. Just because my finishing process is different from somebody else's, it doesn't necessarily make it right or wrong. It just makes it different. If I can get a good result that I'm happy with, then that's good. If the other turner can get a good result that they're happy with, then fine. All right, so we still have the Novus 2 on the blank. I've got a clean section of paper towel, firm pressure on one end of the blank, and wipe across. and off. Now Novus 1 is our actual polish. So this is what the polish looks like. It's a spray pump bottle. So what I do is I spray a little bit of it onto the actual blue shop cloth. So now you can see that it's been polished, and I just work this in a bit. Because you can't necessarily see this being worked in, I just work it in for, I don't know, a few seconds, or whatever I think seems appropriate. Again, I'm not touching, or I'm not going onto the bushings, because I don't want to bring that metal dust onto the blank, but I'm just going to polish that. So now that that is done, I take another dry blue shop cloth, and this, I do the same thing, firm pressure across the blank, and what this does is it just dries off the blank of any moisture, and that is the polishing process. So at this point, I'm going to move you guys back around to the front. I'm going to take my face shield off because we're done turning. Sorry guys, just bear with me for a second. Here is the blank. Now I know that's still kind of hard to see, so I'll go ahead and take this. What I'll do is I'll take it off the lathe, and I'll flip the camera so you guys can get a better shot of this. So if we go to all right, so here's what this blank looks like after it's turned, and we are ready to press this into a pen kit. So let's go ahead and head back over to the assembly table, which is also known as my table saw, and we will get this pressed into the kit. So I'm going to move you one more time. If you guys get seasick, car sick, close your eyes for a minute. I'll tell you when you can open your eyes. All right. So here we are at our assembly table. You guys can open your eyes again if you guys are ready. So now we have our executive pen kit. This is what it looks like. It's a Penn State kit, but I did get this from Turner's Warehouse. You can see that right there. The link to this exact kit is in the description. You can see that we're using a black enamel executive pen kit. Honestly, I don't know that there was a finish that we could have gone wrong with tonight. I'm going to take these parts out of the bag. We've got our transmission. We have our spring down there. You don't want to lose the spring, because if you lose the spring, that's a bad day. That's a real bad day. All right. So here we go. We're going to put this thing together. I, once again, need to grab a piece of cardboard just so I can protect my protect the pen from any potential damage. So I'm going to take these bushings out. We're not going to need them anymore. My bushings are over here, so I'll put those away a little later. If this was a recorded video, you'd see that all of this would get edited out. I'd have all this laid out, ready to go, but instead we're on a live stream. So you get to see this live and you get to see how I just kind of lay everything out. There's the clip. The transmission's going to go up here, and then the nib is going to be over here. Sometimes they come in, sometimes these pieces come in bags like this, which I really like because you can just undo them and take them out. Sometimes they come in this bubble wrap, and I'm sure they have a rhyme and a reason for which ones go in the bags and which ones go in the bubble wrap. But I'll be honest, I'm really not a fan of the bubble wrap. It's not a huge deal, but it is a little bit of a pain. All right, so now that we have this laid out, we're going to press our clip end into our blank first. And I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at our blank. And there is quite a bit of black with green as an accent. So I think I'm going to put my clip probably somewhere in a black area. So somewhere about right there. I think that looks good. So now that I have it started, I'm going to we'll put the piece of cardboard here just to protect the blank. We've got this started, and now we can press that in. When assembling pens, this is the part where you really want to take your time, because if you don't take your time, you could crack the blank, and if you crack the blank at this point, you've done all that work and you've got nothing to show for it. So there's the top end. Now we're going to insert the nib end. And because these blanks, because the bushings had the same diameter bushings, it doesn't matter which end is the cap and which end is the nib. So again, we're going to make sure we've started straight, and then we're going to press. We've pressed the nib into into the other end of the pen, and this is what it looks like. So now I'm going to take my ink, I'm going to put the spring on, and I'm going to drop this into the end of the pen. I'm going to screw in the transmission, wait for it to thread. Okay, and now you can see that we have ink that is extracted. So now I can turn this and it retracts. Extend, retract, extend, retract. And sometimes you want to do that a couple times just so the transmission can get comfortable with extending and retracting, because sometimes it just needs a little bit of time to loosen up there a little bit. And then this cap just pushes on the top like so, and we have a completed pen. So now I can twist this end and we have our ink ready to roll. Or I could twist this again the other way and we're ready to put it in our pocket and go about our day. Doug said he hung the press on the wall and it's so much easier to use it that way. I know a lot of people have put their presses on the wall. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody use a pen press while it was hung on the wall, but I know they take them down to use them. I've never tried that, but that would be a great shop organization tip for my next shop. Carol, you're absolutely welcome. We'll plan on doing this again next week. By doing this again next week, I mean live stream. I don't know if we'll be turning a pen or if we'll be casting resin or something like that. It'll be one of those. The problem is I need to get more of a variety of kits, because I know that I've turned executive kits on here. I know that I've turned Tiny Giants multiple times. We tried a dentist last week, or 2 weeks ago, so that was fun. But it's just a matter of figuring out, do you guys want to see the same kits and different blanks, or do you guys want to see different kits and different blanks? Because I do have a lot of blanks that I want to turn on these live streams. I just haven't gotten the chance to get through them yet. Angie, thank you. George, what's going on? Thank you. Doug says, I have it in one of my videos. I'll have to check that out for sure. Jim, thank you. Doug, thank you. I really do appreciate you guys, interacting here. This pen, I know I'm a little biased. I think the black enamel finish looks really cool with this. But honestly, with this blank, I don't think you could go wrong in any kit finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move the camera. I'm going to not move the camera, but I'm going to switch the camera view just so we're here. Okay. So this is... Here it is. I don't know if this is going to pick it up any better on this side, on the front camera than the back camera. But here it is one more time. Doug says it's the spiderweb pen. I know I've watched that video, but I'll check it out again for sure. Ray, I will send you. I'll send you a personal message for sure. So yeah, that's our finished product tonight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. If you guys want to, hang out and chat, I can do that. Otherwise, we can call it here. We're at just about an hour now, so that's a pretty good time that we were able to get this turned in about an hour. Now, I do prep the blanks obviously before the live stream, so then that way we don't have to wait for glue to dry or anything like that. I don't know if you guys would be interested in me doing a pen prep live stream or not. If that's something that you guys are interested in, go ahead and let me know. If not, that's fine too. I've got a list, probably maybe not a mile long, but I've definitely got blanks that I want to turn and things like that. So yeah, I do want to thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. One of the ways, or a couple of ways to support the channel, if you feel inclined, I do have Patreon. If you guys are interested in that, that link is in the description. My website, cross-cut-creations.com. It's running across the bottom of the screen. That is a good place to check out. If you guys want logo merchandise, there's a shop there that you can pick some stuff up. There's different kinds of shirts, there's hoodies, there's hats, there's stickers, there's just all kinds of logo merchandise. But then there's also some hand-turned items. So yeah, all my social media links are in the description as well. I'm most active on Instagram. So another good way that doesn't cost anything extra, I've mentioned it before, are the Amazon affiliate links in the description of this video. I have some Amazon affiliate links. Those are also on my website under the tools I use. If you click on one of those links, it'll take you to whatever tool you click on. But even if you don't buy whatever that tool is that you clicked on, whatever you put in your cart and purchase, the only thing it costs you is whatever you put in your cart. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and that gives a small commission back to the Crosscut Creations shop. So yeah. Ray says, awesome looking pen. Thank you. Thank you for being here. You guys are what keep me going, and I just enjoy the interaction. Jim says to turn different blanks for different pens. I love that idea because I want to do some Choya blanks. I have a couple Corian blanks that I might try. And I have bushings for a handful, actually quite a few different kits. I just haven't gotten around to all of them because some of the kits that I have turned, or some of the kits that I have bushings for, they're kind of, they can be pricier kits. So yeah. Thanks for hanging out tonight with me on this one. Here it is one more time. This is a Swamp Waters pen blank from the Classic Nib. Like I said before, that is linked in the description if you guys want to pick up a Swamp Waters blank of your own from the Classic Nib. This one was a ton of fun, and we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.